Good morning, yo guys. Oh man, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm currently on my couch right now. Um, I put in some clothes in real late, and now I'm biting the bullet of that. Uh, but disregard the blanket that's on me. Just know that sometimes when God calls you to do something, it's not always comfortable. It's actually, the most rewarding things that I've been blessed with from God has always been at my discomfort. So today I just wanted to speak to you guys a little bit about my testimony. I'm not exactly sure who this will reach, but I know that the world is getting a lot dark or a lot darker, and there goes my stuttering like Moses. So yeah, I definitely feel like the anointing is on this video. But as the world gets darker, we have to understand that there's no compassion without suffering. You know, you can't understand how much God really means to me if I never tell you what he's brought me through, what he's brought me to, and what he's going to bring me out of. And a little bit of my testimony is, um, when I was a little kid, at 4 years old, I was ran over by a car. And still to this day, I remember seeing the people in the car. However, they didn't look like people. Like, they looked like human beings, but they looked like they were like empty shells. And I didn't understand that at that moment, because maybe I was seeing spiritually things that I just couldn't understand. But I remember the woman and the man just like having no reaction when they hit me. But what was crazier was that when the tire ran over my body, I didn't feel a single thing. Like, I ended up passing out just from shock, because, like, I was 4 years old. I got hit by a car, and it was just that, like, that was scary. But then I realized that's when the spirit of fear and the spirit of anxiety entered into me, because I was so scared that I passed out. But I remember waking up in the ambulance. But before I woke up in the ambulance, I remember hearing the sirens. Like, I remember hearing the sirens before I was even in the ambulance somehow, which was kind of crazy, because that kind of just came to me. But I remember being in the car, and the back of the ambulance, and I just kind of came to, and the first thing that I was thinking about was getting something to eat. And I never forget to this day, like, what I wanted was McDonald's. And I just think, like, that's just how, like, that's how great God is. Like, you could literally be in something so dire that, like, once it's over, it's over. And I that's probably not the best analogy, but like, that's just how it was. I was 4 years old. I got hit by a car, and then it's like I forgot about getting hit by the car. And for a while, my mom was very religious. We would go to church, but she kind of had like such problems and situations with people at the church, over how she dressed, because she would wear jeans to church, and she would wear, I guess she would show cleavage. I can't remember exactly what all that they used to get upset about, but I do remember they used to get upset about her wearing jeans, because everybody else was wearing skirts and stockings, I guess that's what they call them. And that kind of slowly but surely moved my mom away from the church. And then my stepdad, who I call my father today, um, his father was a pastor, and he can never he can never really fight against hypocrisy that he felt that his parents had, and the people who went to church had. And he even took it upon himself to read the Bible himself. And as we fast forward, there were moments in my life that I wanted to really see if God was real, but I just didn't have the guidance to really know on how to seek him, because I was thinking that the only way to find God is you go to church every Sunday. Every time there's church, you have to go, or if you don't go, then you're sin, and then God's gonna hate you, and you're not going to be able to go to heaven. You're gonna go to hell. And I vaguely remember anything about hell when I was younger, but I do remember them saying like hell is a place that you don't want to go, is you'll be burned alive and things like that. And I was just like, well, I can barely take being outside in 98-degree weather, so I know hell is not for me. And they would say things like that, and I would be terrified. So I would be following, I would be trying to follow Jesus, or God, because I don't necessarily remember them saying Jesus. Not saying that the church that I went to didn't. It's just I just remember hearing about God, and I was try to seek a relationship with Him, but it would be always out of fear and anxiety. And you know I'm 5, 6, 7 years old, thinking I'm gonna die, and I'm gonna go to hell because I don't have the knowledge and wisdom to really know that at a certain point, you know, my actions are no longer just innocent anymore. Which I actually learned with my own daughter that uh, God really is a God of all understanding. That He doesn't judge children and men and women who are of age and understanding the same, because a child doesn't comprehend things the way that someone as me and an adult should. So fast forwarding, I couldn't. There would be moments that I would just feel like the presence of God, but I would, and when once I left church, it would like kind of carry on with me, uh, to home. And I would, this was, I want to say this was like I was about 9 or 10 or something like that. And every time that I would get that sensation, it would be the night, like that same night, I would get demonically attacked. And it used to scare the living daylights out of me. I remember I used to tell my mom, like, mom, there's something wrong, like there's something in the house, like I keep hearing something on the steps, I keep hearing things in the closet, I keep seeing things, that like are not there, but they're there because I keep having this tingling sensation that I can't get rid of. And it doesn't matter what I'm doing. And she would tell me to just say, in the name of Jesus I rebuke you. And uh she would tell me, sometimes she would tell me just stop being a crybaby and go to sleep. But I remember one time she did tell me, if I get really really scared like that, then just to say Jesus. But I would be so scared and so fearful that I couldn't even say, like I couldn't even remember. And that just shows you just like the demonic, how strong the demonic was in my home. And then I realized that it didn't really help that my family was in fornication. And then you know incest was kind of flowing in my family. And then all these curses were in my home, because we were opening portals and altars to the enemy. So it's like I could say Jesus, but you know I have no idea about these altars. I have no idea about these enemy devices. I have no idea about any of these things. And uh, so I think at that point, that was a pivotal point for me. And I was just like, every time I pick up this Bible, something crazy happens and I get scared. And like, I don't know what I was expecting for to happen, I guess. When I would get in those moments, I guess I was expecting like this beam of light to just like appear and just, I don't know, tell me to go to sleep. And then I would know that it would be okay. So because I was so childish in mind and ignorant. You know, it literally pushed me away, all the way away from God. But there would be moments, 11, 12, 13, that something would happen in the world, and I would just think like, maybe God is real. Maybe God is real, because why is this and why is that? And but it never lasted long. It never lasted long. So for a while, I realized that I started losing my dreams. At the age of, I want to say 12. At the age of 12, I started kind of losing my dreams, and it didn't bother me at first until I think I moved to Indiana, and then I started, like, people would tell me about their dreams, and I would always wonder, like, I can't remember the last dream that like remember, for years. And I think around the age of 12, that's when I got into pornography, and like that stuff, like it put me in like overdrive of lust. Like, um, all I could think about was lust. All I could think about was like pleasuring myself. All I could think about was masturbation, and all I could think about was when is my body going to be like what's the word? When is my body going to calm down so I can do it again? And I mean, that stuff tore my life up. I remember I used to, when my mom would sleep, I would go and steal her phone, and I would watch porn on that. I would wait till she would go to work, and then I would grab her computer and I would watch porn on that. Like, it was just like, even though I knew that my mom would beat the brakes off of me, it was just like, and in those moments I had no fear of what could happen, because I just need this fixed. And then that stuff, that stuff became so deep within me that I uh, I could like imagine these things in my mind, and I realized that they weren't my, they weren't my thoughts. They were the enemy's thoughts. But I could think of these things, and now, like, I found like a new addiction. Like, I just need like just a swivel of 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 a picture, and then I could get my fill off. And that really stirred me away from God, because I'm seeing people around me, you know, having fornicating without marriage, and nothing's happening to them. They're not dying. Nobody's getting sick from to my knowledge, and nobody is really like dealing with anything. They're always smiling, they're laughing, they're giggling, they're like advocating, like, fornicating again, like fornicating is fine. And then when I even when I met my biological father, he advocated it to me. So it was more of like it can't be bad if if even my own biological father is telling me to do it. And I mean, man, this pushed me so far left from God that he it's like I couldn't even be called a lukewarm Christian, because I had so many questions that I was either scared to ask, or I just felt like nobody can answer them. And you know, my grandma, I love my grandma, but it just felt like she didn't have the answers for me, because I had a million questions. Like, I had a million questions about God, and how the heck, is God real? And why do people die? And why do people get raped? And why do people get murdered? And, slavery, and with all of these questions that like are asked throughout the entire world, you know, I didn't get these answers until I finally said, God, I'm all yours. And a part of my testimony is, this is just a recap from the age of, 4 to, to the age of 18, where I actually had my first, I want to say, real encounter with Jesus Christ. And what was so crazy about it, and what was so crazy about that was that I had just got done masturbating, and I'll never forget it. Like, I got done. I wasn't thinking about anything else, and I went to sleep, and I just remember seeing like white. like everything was white. You know, like I mean, like you could see everything. You could see everything. Everything was clear. There was not a shadow. Like the only shadow that I could see was within me. Like that's the only thing that was the only darkness uh, where I was. And what I realized is that when I looked up, I realized that I was at the gates of heaven. And to this day, all I can remember about the gates of heaven is that it looked when I looked down, you couldn't see anything below you, but it was like I was walking on a cloud. It felt like I was walking on a cloud, but like it was like my feet weren't hovering. Like I was literally like flat footed, and like I remember like everything was fine. I'm at the gates of heaven. I'm just like, I think something's wrong, and then I just feel like this beam of light come near me, and when I tell you, like my fear and anxiety went like super max. I end up doing, exactly what the Bible says, that every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. And I never read that part of the Bible ever, because I realized I had an encounter with Jesus Christ. And I mean, when he was just standing there. He wasn't talking to me. He wasn't pointing the finger at me. He got a little too close, and I was hugged up like that, like I could hide from him or something, like it was just the most intense feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. That when he didn't even say anything to me, and yet he still, like, that's how much power and authority that he has, that he didn't say anything to me. His light literally is so holy that it made me squeamish, that I was like, man, I just want to die, because I just can't be beside this person. I can't be beside him. And I just realized, like, without realizing it, I realized I was just confessing all my sins. And I was thinking about how I literally just masturbated, and now I'm at the gates of heaven. I'm thinking I just died and I'm about to go to hell. I'm about to go to that place that that pastor was talking about one time. And I'll never get the chance to, go to prom and do all these things. I was just thinking about, like, man, my life is over. Like that's how quick it, like, Jesus snuck up on me. Like he snuck up on me like a thief in the night. And I think about it now, like, it doesn't make me as sad, because glory to God, he saved me. I'm baptized, and I'm walking in his light. And man, I can't I get excited when I tell people about, that time that I went to heaven. I didn't even know it was heaven. But as I'm sitting there confessing, you know, my last thoughts are, I messed up and I'll never get another chance. And then this is the only time that I was able to actually look at him, and he reached out his hand and he told me, welcome. And I remember the gates of heaven opening. And for a long time, I did not understand what that meant, for the gates of heaven to open for someone like me, a sinner. I was like fresh off the sin train. And all I can remember is that all that fear and anxiety that I had felt, it was just gone. It was just washed away. And I'm crying, but like I can see just perfectly enough to reach out for his hand. And then I wake up, and I wake up in a pit of sweat. And I mean, like, you would have thought I took a shower in my bed. That's how much, that's how wet my bed was. My bed was. And I was thinking, like, was that real? Like, is what I just witnessed real? And of course, because, my bed is an altar now, you know, I have spirits telling me, no, that wasn't real. You had a bad dream. You had a nightmare. And I'm like, man, like, I haven't dreamed in forever. And this dream I remember perfectly. But of course, I go back to my sin, and I watch a lot of I've seen a lot of the testimonies how people say, I went back to my sin, and I think, how the heck did they go back to their sin after experiencing something like that? And then I realized I did the same thing. So uh, that I had that encounter with Jesus Christ, and I mean, man, that never left me. But I was scared to tell anybody because, you know, I'm gonna be honest. I was scared to believe in God because to believe in God means that what I was doing was wrong. Angels and demons are real. God and the devil is real. Adam and Eve is real. God making the world was real. Like everything uh, that science has proven, the Bible has already proven it. Like so, it was like I would have to take what I thought I knew and put it aside and let God really show me what is and what isn't. And I was just like, man, I don't know if I can get that up. And another big thing was that I didn't want to give up fornication. Fornication was just something that had me so bound to the point to where like I was really willing to lose my soul for it. And I never realized that it was just from generations. It was just from generations, and by the glory of God, he's delivered me from those things. And this is 18. I encountered Jesus Christ, but I didn't give my life to Him. Actually, it's like it felt like my life got darker. I got more into sin, and it wasn't until then that I met this beautiful girl. Her name was. I'll say her name was, Stell. I'll say her name was Stell. And, she, she was in sin as well. So we did the fornicating thing. But what she taught me was that she was really something beautiful to be around. She was someone to where like, I started thinking about marriage. I started thinking about kids. I started thinking about not just doing everything for myself and being for myself. I wanted to really be better, and it was perfectly fine until I got to my senior year. In my senior year to my college year, I had this immense amount of pride because I'm on the track team. I play football, and I have a six pack, and I'm feeling good about myself, and I'm feeling so good that I forget that even though the in the Bible God doesn't honor boyfriend or girlfriend, it's still just an amount of integrity to if you say that you like somebody and you say you want to be with somebody, be with that person, and let the goal be marriage. But if you don't have those intentions, don't be in a relationship. That's just my 2 cents. And of course, like I started feeling myself, and now I realize that this is how the devil worked against me when I was younger. He worked against me by realizing, oh, you don't need to be with her. You can be with her, that girl, that girl, that girl, that girl, and then you can go back to your girlfriend, and nobody would ever care. Well, of course, when we get to college, that all backfires on me, and for a while, it was like a great temptation. It was a great temptation, and I end up eventually giving in. Just because of, and this is something that everybody should 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 listen to, especially if you're married. It's so easy in the beginning, but when you really want to do good and be better, especially through Jesus Christ, that is when it is the hardest. And I tell this to anybody that will listen to me. I'd rather fight for somebody, to the tooth and nail, knowing that God has sent them to me versus give them up because, it's easier. I've ran into some people who are really, they've been with somebody for 4 or 5 years and still don't know if they want to be married. And I'm just like, how do you not know? And then I got the contrary where there's people who are married for 4 or 5 years and they're just like, I don't know if this person is right for me. And it's just like, how do you not know? You know, there is a God who knows everything, and He can tell you if this person or that person is your wife or your husband. Why not seek Him and ask Him to reveal these things to you? So now there's no what's the word that I'm looking for? There's no, I guess, ignorance. You know because God said so. And if God says so, it can't be changed. That doesn't mean that God's adversary, his enemy, won't come and try to tell you something completely different. So that's just my, that's like, so far that's what I've been learning. But when I got to college, I realized that I didn't love her. I didn't love her because to truly love somebody, you're not going to do what is easy just because you're tempted every day. You're going to do what is right and may be hard, but it's worth it in the very end. And um, well, coming out of college, I met, my beautiful ex fiance. Her name was Lean, and I was always crazy for her. I don't know why, but I was always crazy for her. And like, she was a beautiful person, and she was just as goofy as me. She cracked jokes. She played games. Uh, she was an athlete, and maybe I just fell in love with the fact that, maybe I lusted after her, but in the end, I ended up starting to love her. And as I started to love her, I started seeing things that, were putting pause to me. And I'll never forget, um, when I came back from college, and I started talking to her. I remember hearing a voice saying, "Don't fornicate with her." And for a long time, I was just thinking, maybe I'm just scared. Maybe I'm tripping. And I remember when I did start fornicating with her, I kept hearing it. Don't fornicate her. Don't fornicate. Don't fornicate with her. And then I stopped hearing that voice when we conceived a baby. And for a while I was thinking, okay, maybe that voice was just my anxiety and my fears. And then she started telling me about the things that she was going through. And mind you, I am still not saved, you guys. I'm not saved at all. And I don't have any relationship with God. If I was to die, at that time, I would have went straight to hell, with high and like, with straight oil. It was when I had my daughter that I started to realize I may have made a mistake, not because I regret my daughter, but because something was warning me to not do something, and I kept doing it. Now that voice is no longer talking to me. So what was it trying to warn me from? And that leads to, her telling me that she's having these nightmares of, of the man that abused her and raped her, and she can never, get away from him. She can never get out. Every time she goes to sleep, she has these dreams that are so demonic that, like, it literally drains her. That when she gets up, she doesn't, like, she has to fake it for everybody. She has to lie to herself, and she's just, she's completely like a zombie. And she would tell me, she would tell me so many things that I, close to the end of her life, she had, something just came to me and was like, she has to go to God. I don't even believe in God, but that's the most logical answer that I can give her, because, she went to therapy, it didn't work. She tried to take pills, it didn't work. She uh you can't, fornicate sin out. That doesn't make sense. You can't get rid of sin with sin. You have to get rid of sin with, with light. So I was thinking, it has to be God. If God is real, then God will be able to save her. And and this is very important, it's when I came to that conclusion that she got worse. And for a while I was thinking, okay, maybe that wasn't the answer, but it wasn't that. It wasn't The answer, it was that the spirits within her knew that if she figured that it, I'll take, if I figure it out, because we were living together and I wanted to marry her, and we had got married, those spirits would be on edge because I would learn, oh, you need something called a deliverance. Oh, you need something called the word. You need something called the armor of God. You need these things that the Bible talks about, but most importantly, you need Jesus Christ. Before I could ever come to that conclusion, she took her life. And that voice came back to me and said, "This is why I told you not to fornicate with her." And when I heard that, I just broke down. I broke completely down because I was just like, because you knew that she was going to take her life, and now I'm stuck with a 2-year-old, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I quit school because of how unstable that she was, thinking that maybe if I'm just here, she will remain. But I'm not God. I can't be with her 24/7. I have to sleep. I have to go do this and I have to go do that. I can't be her God. And once I realized that I couldn't be her God, and she had told me that she had cheated on me, the day before she took her life, I just realized that humans are temporary, but God is eternal. So it would make more sense to put your trust in something eternal versus temporary, because when they die, and they will die, if you can look upon the eternal, what what would have consumed you in wrath and anger and bitterness and rejection and coldness and harden of heart, it won't be able to find you, because you'll remember that what Adam and Eve did, that one thing, is the reason why we all die. It's the reason why we all die. So by me fornicating with her was part of the reason why she perished, because the wages of sin is death. It never says exactly how that person will die, and it never says that it'll be convenient when they die, because death is not convenient. Death is a matter of fact. And this is where my walk with Christ really became real, because I had nothing but fear and anxiety. I was panicking. I was like, I have a 2-year-old daughter. I don't I don't have a career. I have no idea how I'm supposed to take these responsibilities and be fruitful and multiply. I have no idea how to do this. And that brought me to a state of brokenness. And a state of brokenness is very, very fruitful depending on your mindset. If you have a mindset, well, life is crap, and if there is a God, he's crap, and my parents are crap, and my life is crap, nobody's gonna care about me, and woo woo, you'll do exactly what the devil wants you to do, which is give up. You'll just give up. And some people give up mentally, physically, spiritually, and all three. In that moment, I broke down mentally so that my spiritual could grow. And this doesn't make sense to me, eh, unless you know me. In front of my own brother, I broke down and begged God if he was real. And there's so many religions nowadays. I had begged him if he was real, the God of the Bible, if he is real, I need him to save me, because there's a great chance that, as much as I mocked, people who committed suicide, because, like, how could you kill yourself? That doesn't make sense, right? I was leading, I was diving headfirst into that, because I had never suffered so much pain, and anxiety, and just complete disbelief all at once. I had never experienced something like that. And when I tell you, you guys, I cried that whole day. I mean, those 4 or 5 months were just a blur. Like, I prayed, like, this is how crazy it is. I prayed that prayer, and I was still fornicating. I was still in idolatry. I was still, uh, rebelling. I was trying to control everything. I was still fearful, and I had such anxiety. But one thing that I did notice that changed was that something within me wanted God more and more and more. That even though I was doing all those sins, I wanted it less and less and less. And one proof is that I used to, when my ex fiance was alive, I used to eat insomnia all the time. I loved it so much, and she would tell me, you're gonna get fat eating that stuff, and that stuff is not good for you. You shouldn't be eating, cookies like that. And I would be like, whatever, whatever. That was something, that was a beautiful memory that I would have of her, because she would always tell me to do things that were healthy, and I'd be like, ew, like that's gross. Like, you eat white rice with no like butter or sugar, and you're weird. And she would just laugh it off. But when she died, I would go to insomnia like religiously every single day. And I got to a certain point that where I could not eat them anymore. Like, if I was to eat it, I would get sick. I would get like I felt like I would get spiritually sick and mentally sick. And then I realized that, okay, I can't run to this anymore. Where can I run to? And I kept hearing, "Come to me, come to me, come to me, come to me, come to me." And I'm like, you know, come to you. Where are you? Where is God? I don't know where you are. And I'm thinking, okay, he's at church. He has to be at church. And I was avoiding church because I had took my ex fiance to church, and like she would always fall asleep, which I learned now was a demonic attack. And I was just like, I can't even walk into this church because it just reminds me of her. Everything was reminding me of what I had lost. That it was very, very hard to see what I still had. So as I'm wandering, and I'm in the wilderness, I'm wandering, I'm trying to find anything and everything that can just relieve me of this pain. It still brought me to the same church. It still brought me to the same church that I was scared to go to because I just didn't want people to remind me of what I had lost. But I remember going one day, and I just felt, it was just like I felt this peace beyond understanding that still to this day I still have, because I gave my life to Christ. And I remember the day that I got saved. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it, you guys. I'll never forget it. I was still going through everything that I was going through, and God to me still didn't feel real. Like, it was just like my testimony right now is so uncut, and it's not polished up. So just bear with me. I remember sitting down in the seats, and I said, God, if today is the day that you want me to lay it all down and give it all to you, and get saved today, have the pastor call for an altar meeting. And I'm telling you, like, the whole service, I'm waiting for this altar call. I'm waiting for this altar call because I'm like, okay, like, I didn't know that this is called testing the spirits, but I'm like anxiously like just waiting for them to call altar call, or so I can just go home. And it was just like at the very, very, very end, the very end. I'm thinking that we're about to get up and go home. They're like, if there's anybody that wants to give their life to Christ, and there's only like 3 or 4 of us in the church, you guys. So like, imagine just how funny this like Just imagine how funny this is to me. Uh, so they call the altar call, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? This is my first leap of faith because there's just no way they were gonna call an altar call. And when I tell you, when I walked up there, I was just like heavily burdened, so burdened that when the pastor touched me, he lit like I never really told the story to the people of the church, but it was just like when he started speaking to me, he just started saying things that I hadn't told them, and I was just like, what in the world? Like this is crazy. Like there is just no way. And man, when I tell you, when he put the oil on me and touched my head, like I just started bawling, and I hate crying in front of people, and I rarely ever cried in front of my daughter. So when she saw me crying, she was just like devastated because she's like, "Why is my dad crying?" I tell you guys, that was the beginning of everything for me. Like I felt like a release off my back, my mind, my spirit, my soul. That when I went back home, all I could think about, all I could think about was what is next. What is next? From that day forward, you guys, I want to let you guys know that I am a single parent taking care of, you know, my beautiful daughter. And one of my biggest fears and anxiety that I had was, you know, to be with somebody else and the same thing was to happen. But then I realized that when you give your life to Christ and you listen to him, there is nothing that can like discourage you from truly trusting in him unless you let it. And I realized, you know, he brought me through Genesis. I love Genesis. He brought me through a lot of the Old Testament, and he made me realize that if I have if I have such a bad fear, then that fear will always keep me bound in the end, and I'll just remain a single father, wondering what if I had just trusted God even in this aspect, because he knows that I as a man want a a wife. He knows this. He knows me better than I know myself. From from that moment that I got saved, I realized that I had more encounters of the demonic side. I learned what altars were. I learned, you know, why fornication is so wrong and why God doesn't like it. And I also learned that the power of prayer. And, you know, it even led me into a 40-day fast. And I mean, I tell you guys, that 40-day fast was like, it was so powerful. And I was just like when that 40-day was over, I was just in complete thanksgiving because, you know, God has had brought me from eating cookies all the time, eating burgers all the time, eating, you know, pleasurable foods all the time to I can eat bananas, I can eat apples, I can eat honey bunches of oats. He brought me to I remember I couldn't eat peanut butter. Uh, I don't know what it was. I just couldn't eat it. He brought me to such brokenness and humbleness that I was a picky eater before Christ. Now, like, if I know God has given it to me, I'll eat it, and I don't care, you know, because I know He sent it to me. And you know, even today, I had 2 bowls of ramen noodles, and I don't even eat ramen noodles, but because I have such Thanksgiving, you know, and peace, just to know that me getting saved was not the end, but it's the beginning of of like everything that is new. It gives me so much joy. And I've only been saved for 2 years, but I tell you guys, in those 2 years I have encountered Jesus Christ once again, and it was during my 40-day fast. I was going through a lot, you know. God was telling me a lot. He was telling me to leave my job, you know, as a single father. He was telling me to forgive people that for whatever reason just hurt me mentally and physically. You know, he was telling me that this woman is my wife, yet when I speak to her, she resents me, and I'm not really sure why. He was telling me that, you know, I'm going to get in a car wreck, and you know, he was telling me all of these things, but I just had so much peace. Just I had so much peace that I can't I can't represent it through my phone. But I hope that whoever watches this video, they will just, whatever scale that is on your eyes, whatever demonic attack that you're going through, will just be rebuked and canceled in the name of Jesus. And that you will hear the true message, because even I still don't understand why, you know, he you know, God woke me up to just give my testimony, because to me, you know, I haven't been in this long enough. But when I met Jesus, when Jesus Christ came into my room, and this is, you know, I got rid of my couch, my bed. I got everything new because it was an altar to the devil. Like when I got everything new, I was brought into a 40-day fast, and he came into my room, and and you guys, he literally hugged me, and he said the Lord's Prayer with me. And I want everybody to truly um listen to what I'm saying. The Lord's Prayer is more than just a religious prayer. It is a prayer that when you have no idea what else to say, sometimes the Lord prayer is enough. You don't have to go into this state of, I bind you this and I bind you that, and you know, uh I loosen the. You don't have to do all that. You can literally just say the Lord's Prayer if the Holy Spirit guides you, and that is enough to be against any power and principality. Because when you pray with your heart, your with your entire being, God will know it. He will be with you in all things, and that's something that He really wanted me to share with you guys, was that the Lord's Prayer is not a religious prayer. Jesus Christ is not religion. We don't serve a religion. Religion did not come into my room and tell me to pray. No, Jesus Christ came into my room and hugged me and prayed the Lord's Prayer with me, and then told me to finish it. Not with envy, pride, not with anything of the flesh, but just of the Spirit, to know that it may not seem like God is with you, but sometimes God has to bring us to a state of brokenness, because for one, we did not obey what He said at the beginning, which leads to the wages of sin. And then sometimes we are put on a trial like Job, who, even though Job, and you guys don't understand how blessed Job really was to go through what he went through without the science that we have today. How egregious what the devil did to him was. Yet he still did not go against God. It's remarkable, bro. Sometimes he brings us through those trials because he wants you to see something. God doesn't need to prove anything to himself, because he is all knowing. He needs to prove something to you. So there are some of you guys who have lost your parents, your grandparents, some of you that have been raped, some of you that have been, left, some of you that have been abused, some of you that have alcohol addiction, some of you that have pill addictions, some of you that just, you don't know what it is, but you just love fornication, you just love masturbation. There are some of you that even believe that you can serve two masters because the world tells you that. There are some of you that even there's some of you that believe that homosexuals will go to heaven. Trans people will go to heaven, and that God is only love. I'm here to tell you, you guys, that if you really want a relationship with Jesus Christ, all you have to do is just stop everything that you're doing and just talk to him. And yes, I mean, literally just stop whatever you're doing and just talk to him. He's literally right beside you, waiting for a conversation. He knocks at your door, seeking a conversation with you. All you have to do is be open enough to understand that God has never lied to us, but he has an adversary that does, okay? And his job is literally to steal, kill, and destroy. He's the opposite of God, okay? Every question that you have, whether it's about slavery, whether it's about death, whether it's about why did this happen to me, why did that happen to my people that I love, and all these questions, God can answer those questions. But you cannot go to man and ask those questions as if they are God, because that makes no sense. What man does not represent who God is. God is his own representation. And I want everyone who watches this video, even if it's just one, to truly just listen to what I'm saying, not what you think I'm saying. Those who really follow Christ, we all know one thing and one thing only, that Jesus is Lord. And whatever he says, it has to go, because there is nothing that he has done that he has not seen his Father do. And that to me is enough. It's enough. So I hope that you guys receive something from this. You guys be blessed always. God loves you. Share the gospel, guys.